so first and foremost, we are going to start a new Xcode project. So you're already pro at this, so you should know what to do. So again, you'll see the Xcode welcome screen, and we're just going to click on create a new Xcode project. And we're going to choose single view application under iOS, click next, and we're going to name our product Dicee with 2 E's because that's obviously cooler than 1 E. Now, team, you can leave none if you don't have one. Organization name, put it as your own name, and organization identifier. Again, this is a reverse domain name with either your full name or your company web address. So if you get confused about any of what I've just spoken about, go back to the I Am Rich tutorials and we've covered all of this in detail. So take a look at that if any of this sounds confusing. So make sure that your language is selected as Swift and keep all of these 3 unchecked. And we're just going to click next. Cool, I'm going to save it on my desktop, making sure that the source control is unchecked. And I'm just going to go ahead and click create. All right, so now that we've set up our new project, we're going to go ahead and design the storyboard. So head over to main.storyboard over here. And remember, if you don't have your file navigator showing, you can toggle it like so. Great, so now we can see our design canvas, and we're going to go into the object library over here, and we're going to search for UI image view. And there it is, image view. So we're going to drag it onto the canvas and we're going to align it. So as soon as you move it around, you can see that Xcode starts being helpful, or sometimes not so helpful, by giving you all of these margins. So we're going to shift it right up to the top left corner, and then I'm going to toggle it to make it fill the entire screen. And I'm going to show you a bit later on how to set up constraints and use auto layout to make your screen look beautiful no matter what screen size you're running your app on. So that's all to come, but for now we're just going to drag on a UI image view and make it fill the entire canvas. So now that you've got your image view, which again, as a reminder, an image view is just a picture frame. In order to add an image to our image view, we first have to have those images incorporated in our Xcode project. And if we have a look over here in the assets.exe assets folder, you can see that we've got absolutely nothing, nada in here that we can use. So first, of course, we have to add our image assets. So we've pre-made the image assets for you in all the right dimensions. Now, in order to download the image assets for the Dicee project, we're going to go again to our trusty course resource list, and we're going to scroll to our current module, which is module 5, build an iOS Dicee app. And you can see over here, we have a link to download the Dicee app assets. And once you click on it, download should start automatically. And if you're using Chrome, then you can just go ahead and click on this in order to extract the zip file. All right, so once you've downloaded and extracted the image assets, you should end up with a folder that looks like this. Now, when you use an online service such as appicon.co or one of the other apps that you can get off the Mac App Store that generates app icons in all of the dimensions that you need, what you'll end up with is a folder that looks something like this. It's called appicon.appiconset. And if you expand it, you can see there's a whole bunch of images in there, and there's something called a contents.json. Now, this is a file that is going to tell Xcode where to place all of these images into the app icon slots. And I just want to show you quickly how you can really easily incorporate all of these icons into your project and make your life a lot easier. So firstly, we're going to go into our Xcode project, and at the place where it says app icon, making sure that you're inside the assets.exe assets folder, we're just going to right click on this and we're going to say show in Finder. Now, this is going to bring up the assets.exe assets folder inside Finder. And you can see that here there is a folder that is named appicon.appiconset, inside of which there is a contents.json. So currently this folder is completely empty other than this file, which says that there's a whole bunch of things that it's expecting, all of these empty slots. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to delete or throw this into the trash, and we're going to get rid of it. So now you can see that app icon has disappeared from our assets.exe assets folder. And you can see it says it's an empty catalog, but no worries, because we're going to import our app icon set that we have from our Dicee image assets. So you're going to take this entire folder that contains all of the app icons and the contents.json, and you're just going to click and drag it over to your assets.xc assets folder. Remember, this is the folder that is going to be responsible for delivering the assets to your Xcode project. And you can see as soon as I've dropped that in, now I have the app icons show up and it's all been automatically added. None of this dragging individually business, which makes it so much easier and so much quicker to work with. So that was pretty much completely pain-free. Now, the next thing that we want to add into our assets folder are our Dicee images. Now, while this assets.xc assets folder is open, you can simply select all of your image assets and drag it into here. Alternatively, you can just drag it into Xcode just as we did before and let it go inside this pane here. So both do the same thing and they add our images into all three slots and everything is now filled up and ready to go. Now that we've incorporated all our images, it's important to check that your assets folder looks very similar to mine. So you've got Dice 1 through to Dice 6, all the Dice face images. And we've got a Dicee logo as well as a new background. So once you've confirmed that you've got all the images that you need, we can go back into main.storyboard and slot an image into this image view. So again, making sure that you've got it selected either on the canvas or in the document outline. We're going to head over to the attributes inspector, which is over here, and we're going to change the image that's held inside the image view. We're going to start writing new background, and there we go. Xcode has already suggested that maybe we want the new background image. So just hit enter and you'll see it appear. A lovely green felt background for our Las Vegas Dice app. Okay, so once that's done, the next step is putting in that Dicee logo. So again, we're going to need a new image view. So in my objects library, I've still got image view showing up. If you don't, then you can just go and type UI image view again to search for it. So we're going to drag this one on close to the top-ish, somewhere that looks reasonably good, and just drop it down. Okay, so time for a challenge. Now, throughout these video tutorials, I'll be issuing challenges that test your understanding and your grasp of some of the things that we've covered. So there's no point just watching me do everything and follow step by step because you're never going to be able to really make it your own. So instead, what we're going to do is I'm going to announce that here's a challenge and it's something that you would have done before or immediately before, and you're going to try and do it yourself. So this is a good point for you to pause the video and go into your own Xcode project and try to figure out yourself. And then afterwards come back and see if the solution matches what you did. So are you ready for your first challenge? All right, so the first challenge is to simply add the Dicee logo to this brand new UI image view. So pause the video and try out the challenge now. So did you remember how to do it? Now, if you didn't, this is just a quick reminder. With the image view selected, we're going to head over into the attributes inspector and change the image to Dicee logo and click enter. There we go. Now, one thing about this image is that you can see that it's slightly stretched. It looks a little bit odd. And that's because our content mode is set to scale to fill, which is not what we want because it stretches the image in a non-proportional way. So we're going to hit this drop down and we're going to change it to aspect fit instead. Now you can see the proportions are back to how they should be and the image looks a lot nicer. Right, so next we are going to design our dice faces, so there'll be a total of 2. So we're going to drag on 2 image views onto our canvas. Now, instead of just resizing it by eye, this time we're going to resize it more precisely. So very often when you're working as an iOS developer, especially if you're working with professional designers, they'll actually provide you with exact location and sizes of all your UI elements. So we're just going to select one of the UI image views, and instead of being in the attribute inspector, we're going to head over to the size inspector. For our first dice face, we want the X value to be 40. So right next to the left, and then we want the Y value to be 273 and the width and the height to be both 120. There we go. And the other one we're going to resize Again, X 2215. Y is 273, and the width and the height are both, again, 120. There we go. So now, as long as your canvas is the same size as mine, just check to make sure that you're inside the same canvas size as I am in portrait, then your screen should look exactly the same as mine, because we've precisely inputted both the location as well as the height and width of our image views. So now it's time to put in some pictures. To do that, remember, we have to be inside the attribute inspector. And I'm just going to put dice 1 in both of them, because right now it doesn't really matter. So now that we've done this the proper way, this is a good time to show you a quick tip. So if you have lots of image views or buttons or whatever it is that are duplicated, such as we've got here, instead of creating them manually one by one, as we have done just now, you can also just click and select the item that you want to copy and hold down Command C to copy and Command V to paste a copy of it. Now that's pretty standard. Now another way of doing this is simply selecting the item you want to copy, holding down the Option or the Alt button on your keyboard, click and drag, and you will create a new copy of whatever it is that you selected. So that means that you can select more than one item, and then again hold down Option or Alt, click and drag the mouse, and you'll end up with lots of copies of what you had previously. All right, so let's make sure we get rid of all of these so they're not cluttering up our screen. Right, so just one last step to complete our design, and that's having a button. So a button that's called Roll, and when you press it, we can change the dice faces. So again, we're going to head over to our object library, and we're going to search for button or UI button. And there we go. And we're going to click and drag it onto the screen. Now, it doesn't matter right now where you leave it. We're going to adjust that later on. But firstly, we're going to modify the appearance of this button to something that pleases us. So we're going to change the title of the button from button to roll, or something else that makes sense to you. We're going to change the font by clicking on this small T button here and going from system to custom. And I'm going to change the size to maybe 30 or 40. So this depends on you again. See what looks right to you. After all, you are designing your own app. And there we go. There's our roll button. Now, the blue doesn't really show up very nicely with the green, so I'm going to change the text color to white, and I'm going to change the background of the button to have a color. Now, unintuitively, the button background color isn't located near the rest of the color settings, but instead it's quite a few scrolls away down here. And I'm just going to pick something that I used recently, like this nice salmon color. But you can also change it to something of your own liking, and then picking any color that takes your fancy. But I'm going to stick to a salmonish color. And then we can just adjust the button to make it look reasonably nice. And there, I'm happy with my design. So go nuts. This is your design. Do whatever you like. You can really make it your own. Now, just before I end this lesson, I just wanted to point you towards one thing that you might notice up here, which is this little yellow triangle, and it's got a little number next to it. And this tells us that we've got one warning on our current file. And when you click on it, it brings up the error pane on the left-hand side and tells you why it's showing you an error or a warning. So warnings are yellow and errors are red. If you have any errors in your code or in your project, then you won't be able to build it or run it. But if you have a warning, then you can still build it, but it's just kind of Xcode giving you a hint saying, hey, maybe there's something wrong here. You should check it out. So this one says that views without any layout constraints may clip their content or overlap other views. Now, what does that mean in English? Well, at the moment, we haven't defined any rules as to how all of our image views and background views should be displayed. So that means that if we try to run this app on a very small device, say something like an iPhone SE, iPhone 5 sized, or even smaller like an iPhone 4, then you can see that we've lost our roll button and our right dice looks like it's been trimmed off. Now, a little bit later on, we have a whole module dedicated to this, which is called Auto Layout and Setting Constraints. Now, if you want to skip ahead and learn that module now, then it's completely up to you. But what I recommend is to simply ignore this warning for now and continue learning along the track that we've designed, which is getting you started on the programming and getting an overview of Xcode projects and iOS apps. And then only when you reach the module, which is all about setting these rules and constraints, then do we come back and fix our design and make sure that it looks good on all devices and all orientations. And it's perfectly safe to ignore this warning for now. Alright, so that's all for this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to be looking at how to link up all of these designs with code, how we can start making the roll button actually do something when we click on it, how we can change the dice image faces, all by writing our own code. All that and more in the next lesson. So I'll see you there. Okay, so now that